want to have some sort of progression and kind of a patient process to build up that your body's endurance and resilience to running. Running takes time to really build up your resilience, your aerobic capacity, your ability to withstand a lot of steps you're going to be taking.
Welcome to the Safe Space Running Podcast, where we are here to encourage, enable, and empower. I'm so glad to have today's guest, Alex from Human Efficiency Physical Therapy. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's cold here. It's I'm really disappointed in Ohio in terms of weather. I go to Texas a few weeks ago and it was supposed to be warm down there, ended up being 30. I come back here and we're in like this polar vortex of sadness where it's like under 15 and below. My whole run schedule has been thrown off. I don't know how you're dealing with the weather, but I'm not a cold person.
Yeah. What was it this past weekend on Saturday? I kind of bundled up Saturday morning, went outside, and I'm trying my best to get outside. But there are some limits where I'm just gonna suck it up and go on the treadmill for this morning. So
Ice is mine. I don't. If there's any chance of ice, I don't take a chance. There's no. I like be standing upright. I'm not a fan of falling over. Not at all.
yeah, I don't like hearing those stories either. I don't like people falling. So
I can imagine so. So I had the pleasure of meeting you at a run club not too long ago, German Village Run Club. But before I dig into a lot of those details, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. So what got you into the running and walking space? What is your story behind that?
yeah. So kind of going back, got involved in undergrad at University of Iowa with athletic training. So I was around a lot of athletes, track, track and field, football, basketball, baseball, whatever it may be, right? So running is involved with any and all sports. So got to see a lot of repetition of it. And it was always an aspect of rehab that we were trying to get someone back to, no matter what the sport. Can we get you back to some level of running, sprinting, cutting, whatever it may be? So from there, went on and got my master's in athletic training, and realized that I wanted to get a little more specialized. So I went back to University of Toledo for my physical therapy degree. Throughout those 5 or so years, worked with some runners and kind of looked into running technique and how we can, as physical therapists, promote better running economy and no pun intended, but running efficiency. It was one of those things where towards the end of my schooling, I was working with a running specialist, and they ended up doing a running clinic, and that was twice a week, the whole day. We were just watching people run.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was cool, and it kind of opened my eyes to the difference that we can make as physical therapists. Not only from a reactionary standpoint, where we can help someone that's injured, which I love doing, but also I think the more interesting and worthwhile thing is looking at it from a preventative standpoint. So getting into I love it when I have someone that's like, I kind of have some aches and pains, but really I'm doing okay. I feel like I'm running all right. And I would just like to optimize my running pattern. I want to have longevity in this sport, and I'm kind of relying on myself, to make sure that how I'm moving is going to get me there. So that's kind of the story.
So what you're saying basically is you know what you're talking about. You've got a little background and some education and what you've been doing. This is not your first rodeo in this space. So that's a lot of training that you've gone through and a lot of information that you have as part of that. That's actually really cool. I think that takes us we can actually segue right into the next topic, because as you are aware, and those who are listening, we have our main spring race coming up here in Columbus. The Cap City Half Marathon is a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon as part of that. So one thing that we want to try to get instilled into the different runners, whether you're new or you're experienced, is that prevention method. And, rather than being reactive to our injuries, how can we be preventative in our injuries, especially as we start to get into the first month of block building for for our different runners and walkers. So, can you talk about more about your experience in prevention and what things you've seen that's really benefit runners as they start into their new training cycle? And in this case, it could be anywhere from the half marathon to the 5K. What things have you seen with your experience that's really helped runners in that prevention methodology?
Yeah, yeah. I think at baseline, you have to have a good understanding of where you're starting. So I think if you're an individual, like running goals, anyone can hit any sort of running goal, right?
Hmm.
But I always try to have an idea and give them a timeline on kind of how they should approach it, right? If you're someone that likes to walk and that's kind of your main mode of exercise, you do it 3 or 4 times a week, and you want to jump up it to running a half marathon, you can get there, but in a 3 months time frame, think about your pace and think about maybe not necessarily getting to this crazy goal that you saw on Instagram, right? Of this person running a super fast time, you know?
Hmm.
Um, you want to have some sort of progression and kind of a patient process to build up that your body's endurance and resilience to running. So I always start at the beginning. Where are you at now? What are your goals? If you are that example where you like to walk and that's awesome and you want to get to a half marathon, if it's in 3 months, just realize that it is better for your body to progress into a half marathon that is more not the sub 130, right? If we
Right.
can, if you're let's try to have you go at, let's see how you can handle a 12-minute pace 3 times a week for 2 or 3 miles at a time, and let's build off of a very very low level, okay? And then when it comes to numbers and progression wise, the golden rule is always 10% each week, and that's volume. Okay. The other thing I feel like people have to consider is intensity. So, not only intensity week to week, but intensity within a week. So, you may have someone that did a 2 mile run at a 12-minute pace, and then 2 days later, they try for a mile at 10 minutes. And that may not seem like a lot, but that intensity is kind of a big jump.
Hmm.
So, it's running takes time, and that's something I've learned too. Is running takes time to really build up your resilience, your aerobic capacity, your ability to withstand a lot of steps you're going to be taking. So it's a patient process. That's where I see people run into issues is where they're like, I'm doing it. I'm running the half. I'm excited. And
Yeah.
then 6 weeks later, I look at their training and they're just doing this crazy amount of volume compared to where they started. And
Hmm.
when you really ramp up that volume and intensity too quick, I would say that's when injury occurs. So from a preventative standpoint, try to map it out, sit down with someone, and really figure out the best route to progressively increase mileage.
I like that you brought out the relationship between intensity and volume. I feel like from my experience and what I've seen other runners have performed, especially those who are, super excited about getting involved. They're like, it's my first race, it's my first half. That variable doesn't get met or doesn't get thought of. And I've seen a lot of runners who have jumped their mileage up within a one instance, whether they're used to doing, as you mentioned, 2 miles every couple days, and all of a sudden they do 15 miles. Like, wait, hold up, slow, pull the brakes, or they are doing 4 to 5 speed workouts because they feel like every run has to be fast. And
Mm.
as you said, that breaks down the body a lot faster, which causes a lot more areas to be injured at. That's something that I had made the mistake of a few years ago, where my intensity shifted and my volume continued to shift at the same time. It wasn't a balance between the two. I'm increasing both my volume and intensity without letting my body actually get adjusted and build to that pace or build to that level of effort. And as you mentioned, it's a patient sport. It's so easy for us to get excited to see what's on social media or to see what others are doing and try to replicate that. But I really like the fact that you bring out those two factors. I don't see those two factors often enough as we talk about running in our inner circles.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think the other aspect of it too is understanding if you have the strength and mobility
Mm,
throughout the body to withstand this new progression and increase that you're trying to put your body through. Such a huge piece I see is, not only are you trying to increase volume of running, but you may not have the strongest gym routine, and
Mm-hmm.
now, you're asking a lot of your body's muscles and tendons and joints, and you now need to have the strength to match it so you can continue to withstand it and train. So there's another piece that I also will consider when talking to someone about injury prevention.
I'm sure you've seen runners are pretty stubborn. We only run. That's one thing that I've had to adjust over the years is, especially as I get older, I just can't go out and just run and that be the basis of it all. I know, of course, getting better at running requires you to run. Getting better at walking requires you to walk. However, that strength training, as you mentioned, hitting the gym, doing the things. I remember my PT years ago told me one rule of thumb is work on the things you can't see in the mirror. So if I look at the mirror and I can't see, of course, glutes, hamstrings, like that, she's like, work on those things. And it's been such a game changer. It's almost like no injuries will happen, sure, but it just helps at least fortitude the body a lot more to be more resilient, as you mentioned. I can personally attest to that. My last question to you then with that would be, and we actually touched a little bit on it, but I want to ask you personally, one of the audience, a good audience that we have here are new runners and walkers who are just now entering into the space. What would be one thing you would share with them as they start this journey? Especially, again, as we talked about, a lot of people are looking into Cap City as their big race for the spring. So as people are starting to get excited, getting ramped up, looking up all this information, whatever may be the case, what would be one thing you would suggest to them?
Yeah, I would say start with baby steps, no pun intended. Um, and if you do want to go from walking to running, or just simply to walking, listen to your body, right? Like give yourself time to listen to how your body's reacting to the new stimulus you're putting into it. If you go ahead and you go out and do your first ever run, a mile run, see how you feel the next couple days, right? Like if you're like, man, I am so sore and it's hard for me to even walk after this, well then give your body time to recover and then build, right? It's your body's telling you, hey, this is new, I got to rebuild, so listen to that.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, Alex, how can people find you? Let's say if I go out and do the complete opposite of what you suggested, and now both of my knees are flaring up, my back hurts, my feet are just feeting. How can I reach out to you? What ways can people reach out and get more information about what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So you can follow me on Instagram and reach out on Instagram. That's totally cool. It's a human efficiency DPT. Or you can go to our website, humanefficiencypt.com. You can contact us there. It has our number, it has our email on there too. Email is alexspringer@humanefficiencypt.com. Yeah, go ahead and reach out 100%. I know it's for some people it feels kind of awkward or it doesn't feel right to just DM someone, but I'm always open to answer questions. I love to talk about running. I want to talk about how we can not only get you running, but keep you running too, right? So, yeah, those would be the best routes.
I love that. Well, Alex, again, meeting you at German Village, you being ingrained with that community and, offering your services and your advice to that. I, for one, thank you for that. It's one thing to offer services. It's another thing to be present into the community and just being a part of what we really love and what we enjoy in this sport. So I personally want to thank you for what you're doing and wish you all the success. Again, this probably won't be the last time you're here, just so we're clear. But it's truly been a pleasure speaking with you and happy holidays.
Yeah, to you too, Chris, and thank you so much. I mean, I see the involvement and the amount of work you're doing for the Columbus community and really as running as a whole is incredibly impressive and it's worthwhile. So this is amazing to be on here. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. We're in it to make sure everyone gets across the line healthy. We'll talk soon.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.